Serious. People with nightmare siblings. What's the most frocked up thing they ever did? Swapped my father's medication for aspirin, after father's heart surgery. My younger brother threatened to murder me and my mother with a hammer he found after he couldn't find a bat. He started a countdown from 10 thankfully, since he's had major blow-ups most of his life. I'd begun recording them shortly before this one. We're alive and he's in jail. He pushed me into the sliding glass door because I didn't know if the phone had rung or not. After about 5 minutes of him yelling about the phone, I snapped and said, "Just leave me the frock alone," and his response was to shove me, cracked the glass and everything. For reference, I was 12 and he was 23. He threw a fit and broke his phone when my parents didn't give him money for cigarettes and beer. He was 36 at that time. He constantly cheated his then fiancée out of money, enabled his 2 kids from a previous marriage to be awful kids, then had 2 more he couldn't raise with another woman. He's as abusive as our father. So I cut him out of my life as soon as I turned 18. My brothers, half-brothers, they have the same father but I have a different father, are a bit older than me. One day they were both sitting on our dock fishing. The oldest brother picked up a knife out of the tackle box. They were about 12. It was a brand new knife of some kind specifically for killing or cooking fish or something. He looks at my other brother and goes, I wonder how sharp this knife is." And without hesitation he literally stabbed it into the top of the middle brother's thigh. Totally casual about it, like no big deal that the knife was in deep enough to stand upright by itself. My brother is extremely mentally ill and he doesn't have a short fuse. He has no fuse. So, when he tripped and my sister laughed at him, he charged at her with a knife and almost killed her. My brother attempted to ruin my life because I wouldn't stay quiet about our father being a pedophile. He rallied the family to harass me into silence. Spread semen on my pop star posters just to disturb me. Threw firecrackers in my bed while I was asleep in it. Strangled me with a PS2 controller cord. Stole and pawned my belongings on a semi-regular basis. Killed our pet parrot by putting it in a closet with a space heater. Beat our dog in front of me with no apparent reason, etc. When I was maybe 6 or 7, my older sister, she was around 12 or 13 at the time, decided one day she wanted to see what the inside of a turtle shell looked like. She had found a turtle in our backyard and took it up to our dad's shed where he had a little concrete slab in front of the doors to the shed. She started slamming the turtle down on the concrete until she cracked his shell open several times. Blood was everywhere. It died, of course. I can remember this is my first traumatic memory I have of my childhood. She told me she would kill me if I told our parents. I just recently told them and I'm now 31. I have no relationship with her at this point in my life. She needs a lot of help mentally but refuses treatment. While my mom was dying of lung cancer, unable to move and in horrible pain, my junkie brother stole all of her opioid bandages. She even kept them under her pillow, so no one could have access to them. He would bend to kiss her, and sneak his hand under to grab them. Edit. To clarify, since English is not my first language, opioid bandages should be opioid patches. At the moment of typing this I couldn't think of a proper translation for the word flaster that's used over here. My older brother once sat on me and mummified me with duct tape and then left me outside in 30-degree weather while he played PS2 with headphones on. He taped my hands and feet together first and then the rest of me. I couldn't even fight back. I was left that way until our mom got home a few hours later and grounded the shit out of him. Edit. 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very cold for where we grew up. She had a nice job working for the FBI. Her job was to do background checks on people in need of security clearance. There was a guy she knew and liked, a cruise ship captain, needed to renew his clearance. To try to get him pissed at his girlfriend, my sister added items to his girlfriend's criminal record. Since it was a renewal, the guy escalated it and what my sister did was discovered. She was convicted and sent to federal prison for a year. What really screwed it up was she didn't tell her kids, they were in their late teens and early 20s, that she had court issues. So they came home from school to an answering machine saying, "Mommy can't make dinner tonight because she'll be in prison for a while." My brother is in prison for kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, evading arrest, attempted murder, possession of an illegal firearm, possession of a controlled substance, possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute, manufacturing a controlled substance with intent to distribute, and as a cherry on top of the sit pile, rape. Here's the truly messed up thing. The rest of the family was surprised it wasn't worse. Edit. Alright, which one of you reported that I'm suicidal? I didn't even know that Reddit had an automated crisis support bot. Lol. Tried to burn the house down with me in it. I found out through the police blotters in the newspaper because my parents thought it would upset me. Just kind of an all-around city family. Tried to rape, molest, and kill me several times. I had myself removed from the house when I was 14. My parents would do nothing about it. That's just what brothers do. Yet 2 years ago he tried to apologize through text message. I refused to talk to him or be in the same state. This turned into him declare his romantic love for me and asking if I felt the same. I blocked his number. Used my own child to hurt me. My parents would babysit my young son while I was working and my older adult brother was there. He has always hated me and done everything in his power to hurt me because I was the baby of the family. My son was around 5/6 of a year old and I caught him verbally impressing onto my child ideas of weird sexual fetishes, like he was trying to corrupt him mentally to hurt me. Removed him from that situation as soon as I figured out what he was doing. I hate my brother. He has always done mean things to me my whole life. I swear he's a sociopath. ETA. This happened over 20 years ago. I was maybe 8 or 9 when this happened. For context, my dad was deployed and my mom was working, so my brother had to babysit me. My brother was around 16 at the time. As soon as my mom left, he shoved me into a closet and locked me inside for 6 or so hours. I was scared of the dark and couldn't reach the light string. He didn't let me out to use the bathroom or eat anything, so I ended up going on myself and sitting in the dark until my mom came home. She told me that he was asleep in his room when she got home. Needless to say, I really fucking hate him. He's still an awful person by the way. I missed my abusive father's funeral as he had died while I was on vacation in Mexico and I wouldn't have gone anyway to be honest. My brother who has been in and out of prison for 30+ years called to tell me that because I wasn't going home for the funeral I was a scumbag. And if he had someone like me in prison he would take the lid of a tuna can and slit my throat. I don't take his calls anymore. Can't decide which was worse. Pretending to be pregnant. She was a teenager at the time, the night before my siblings' big school exam finals, my 21st birthday. Presumably because the attention wasn't on her. As a school dropout with no job at the time. Or the time she stole my aunt's money and house after she died. Then tried to claim that there was no money. The council took the house back because we owed a load of tax. My mother, massive enabler who has never said no to her in her life, finally admitted to signing some legal documents, which allowed her to do all of this. My other siblings and I found bank statements afterwards. Scary thing is, I think she believes her own lies. My younger brother is narcissistic. I don't remember what the reason for the fight was, but we blew up at each other the night before my 18th birthday and he managed to get on top of me and choke me. He got kicked out after that. My younger sister grabbed the wheel while I was driving, and we almost went into a ditch. I asked her why she did that. She told me she wanted to see my reaction. Edit. Thanks for the reward. My brother, who was 19 at the time, got a 15-year-old girl pregnant. I was only 10, but later found out that they had to go across state lines to Missouri to get married, because Illinois wouldn't allow it. Otherwise, he'd have gone to jail for statutory rape. Yeah, that marriage didn't last long. It's hard to decide between him trying to strangle me to death in my sleep, him permanently frocking up my hip with a metal bat when I was 9, and him spending over an hour at my birthday dinner recounting every single story of him intentionally hurting me as a kid, most of which I had always thought were accidents, and getting everyone to laugh about it, at me. My stepbrother falsely ID'd as me when he was busted driving recklessly on a motorcycle. He was on probation for drug charges at the time and didn't want to go to the slam. I missed a whole day off work going to court when I was informed by phone that there was a bench warrant for failure to appear. When I got to court and the ticketing officer saw me, he took me to a conference room where he described little bro to a T. I made sure he had the correct home address for the punk. After he was released from jail, I made sure he understood if he did it again he would walk crooked for the rest of his life. My sister and I are 15 years apart. I was an accident, and her teenage self was super pissed I was born. She basically spent every waking moment of her teens being pissed I was alive, siphoning resources and attention away from her. She never paid me a moment's attention, and I remember her kicking me at the age of 19. Anyway, she moved out of my parents' house to get married at 24, and I was not allowed inside her new house for the next 2 years. When I finally got to visit the house, she turned her back and walked away from me when I crossed the threshold. I'll never forget it. I remember when I was 12, my younger brother who was 9 at the time got super pissed off at me. He ran to the kitchen to grab a knife. He chased me with it until I ran into my room and locked the door. Not so awful in the long run. But my brother tried to make the most money out of my mom's death. Sold the house without telling the other brothers. Basically hijacked the estate for as long as he could. But because he wasn't smart, we made out pretty good. It didn't hurt that he was greedy and screwed everyone he could to make the most money. Just hurtful, and that didn't reflect what we were taught by our parents. She tried to wreck the car with me and my other sister in it. I was 8 or 9. Toxic sister was 24. Took off yelling, "Let's frockin' wreck tonight, girls," because her ex-boyfriend wouldn't take her back. We were in his neighborhood. We were screaming. He came running to the stop sign, made her turn around, and snatched me and not crazy sis out the car. Called our parents to come get us and wouldn't let her near us. Coke and being some kind of narcissistic borderline psycho don't mix well. Kids. When I grew up, she wound up frocking my ex. Now she lives with a boyfriend who isolates her and treats her like shit. And most of her teeth have fallen out from pills and other drugs. I moved 2,000 miles away. Funny how that worked out. My sister stole my child's ADHD medication, causing him severe ramifications in school both academically and socially. She was emptying the capsules. So I had no idea I was giving my child empty pills. For a year, I'm a single parent. As in, my children have no dad. Dad doesn't ever ask how they are or to see them, and I struggled with his behavior and punishments and nothing was working and I kept going back to his doctor and saying, "See, it's not working. Med increases. Random days. It would work. Then nothing again, because she couldn't steal all the contents of the pills in one swipe, so I'd randomly give him a dose of a pill she missed. I was so confused and defeated. And so was my poor kid. My sister, like our mother, got another kid specifically to try and frock over her ex-husband during family court proceedings. It didn't work. She still lost custody of her firstborn son, even though she's been raising her daughter. It's just the kid is branded as a revenge baby. Well, the latest is he got kicked out of my mom's house for doing drugs and stealing shit again, ended up starting a fire in entire, brakes, muffler place, probably frocked up on drugs and of course in possession or narcotics. This is after having been homeless and having his GFOD next to him in bed and have all his teeth removed at 34 because of meth mouth. Don't look it up. Hopefully he's going away for a while and can get cleaned up and released in time to realize he can do something with his life. It all stems from abandonment issues and severe anxiety that was never diagnosed until it was too late. Short story, but I have a brother that is the middle child. 15. He was 11 at the time and we just got a new puppy. He adored it and played with it so much that it slept in his room. When it would be in his room we wouldn't think anything of it. One day it was in his room all day and didn't come out. No one really wondered why. The day after it just disappeared. And we thought it got outside and ran. We had no fence. We went looking all day and night for it, eventually giving up. A few days have gone past and a strange smell started to come from his room, and lo and behold there was the puppy, dead in his toy box. It turns out he had locked it in his toy box for over a week in the summer. Got high as frock on heroin, then drunk at the same time and tried to hit my elderly and disabled mother. Only reason he didn't was because I saw the hit coming and was able to get in front of my mom in time. I wrestled him to the ground and pinned him while he was screaming about how he couldn't wait to watch us all die and things of that nature. He also stole my mom's pain meds as frequently as he possibly could, even after she had major surgery. He was the favorite child and knew it. So aside from the usual stuff that accompanies that, there's a thing he did that made me jump from disliking him for being a douchebag and straight to forever hating him. He would constantly blackmail me, threatening to out me to our mother. Then when I eventually did come out, threatened to tell her anything I did or make up shit about me that mom would auto-believe. It never ended. I finally left home when he got picked up by the cops, ambulance, when I was out and mom was abroad, and I knew somehow everything would have been pinned on me. It was just easier to leave at midnight the next day than deal with it anymore. After checking the comments I've come to realize my sister isn't a total nightmare, but she still frocked me up like a lot. Since I was young she'd always point out if I was just slightly fat, etc. I was underweight already, but with her comments telling me she was skinnier than me and that her stomach looked better, I really got bad body issues. For actual years I wasn't even realizing how skinny I was. I'm just glad I didn't fall into an ed. My husband's brother tried to kidnap my oldest twice, once when my boy was an infant and once as a teen. He also sold drugs from his parents' house. Brought in multiple druggy friends to freeload off of and outright steal from my in-laws. My in-laws wondered why I mostly kept my youngest child away from them. My brother and his friends thought it would be funny to prank call someone to tell them that they were going to chop them up and mail them to their family. Cops were involved. IDK how TF he got off the hook. He's a boss and I don't even visit my parents because he lives there. My brother is a bit of a problem, not just for the family but also society. He is a deadbeat father because of his drug addiction. And now he is looking at serving up to 15 years in prison because he is a two-time convicted felon that was caught with 2 firearms and over 100 rounds of ammunition, plus false id to Leo and various drugs in his possession. So the worst thing he has ever done is be a deadbeat father. When I was 6 or 7 I was going through a very hard time. We had an abusive household and my mom had just admitted to me she wasn't coming back. I was gifted for Christmas a baby doll. I carried her around for about a month, then one night my brothers woke me up. They had shaved her head, cut out her eyes, lit her head on fire, and once I understood what they had done they took her in the closet to have sex with her. If anyone cares, none of my 6 brothers ever graduated high school and most of them are felons, all but 2 in fact. My sister decided she hated me one day and stabbed me with a steak knife. I was 2 years old. She did it again when I was about 14 years old. She does have bipolar, but it still isn't an excuse. I grew up with a single mom who worked a lot of long hours, so my sisters and I were left to our own devices a lot. I was the youngest, so my older sisters were supposed to watch out for me, but they had a lot of after-school activities like sports, clubs, friends, etc. So I got left by myself a lot. My sisters decided it would be a good idea to tell me that if the police find out I'm home alone, they will come and arrest me. I spent years, like multiple years, hiding in our basement with all the blinds in the house closed, petrified that the police were going to come take me away. I would have full-on meltdowns if I saw a police car drive by our house, and I was inconsolable. Now I'm an anxiety-ridden adult and it all makes sense, haha. Brother molested myself and my brother. Stole from my parents' money, guns, jewelry, coins. Cheated on and was divorced by wife number 1. Gave up all parental rights to his kids to get out of child support. Molested his daughters. Got kicked out by his wife. Second one. Moved in with my other brother. Broke up that marriage. Marries his sil, beats his stepkids, niece and nephew. Leaves her bankrupt and destitute. Leaves her for her best friend, marries her. Tells everyone to get over his behavior, it was in the past. When he died, lies about being in Vietnam, working Alaska pipeline, and tried to make everyone feel like he was such a hero. Scumbag. Asterisk shame asterisk I was the nightmare. My sister threw a tennis shoe into my train set, and I countered with a fork I was holding. She has 4 little dots at her hairline to this day. Thankfully, we matured and are now best friends. Not really sure how that happened. Come to think of it, we never used to protect each other except when my mother pitched a fit. At me, of course. And started screaming and throwing things. Now I'd take a bullet for her twice over. It's not that it was her fault at the time, but my sister used to purposefully step on my feet, bump into me, steal money, and was just a goddamned bully in childhood. The worst thing she did was abandoning animals. She had a kitten, maybe a month old, that she put outside and just abandoned. I never saw it again, so it probably got hit by a car. All of this was caused by my mother, who spoiled my sister, and hated me for the crime of being born. Parental favoritism, even mild cases, breeds resentment and shame for being unloved. This was another level. Mom encouraged fistfights, racism, homophobia, and took pride in hitting her kids. My sister is now bipolar. I'm avoidant, anxiety-ridden, and depressed, and it's all due to parental abuse. Got hooked on meth and broke into my apartment and stole what I'd just spent 6 months saving for. Got hooked on heroin and I was forced to adopt their children. Got hooked on pills and decide to tell anyone who will listen how bad of a person I am and constantly shame me and verbally abuse me. I only stick around because I love their children and try to give them a better life. We tried to go into a residence-only gym, community center type thing for a townhouse community. We were immediately kicked out. Later on in the evening he drags me out of bed. We walked to community center where I thought he would knock a plant over or something. He proceeded to sit on the landing by the front door. Then bare hands smear it all over the windows and railings. Following day we were walking by. Same guy who kicked us out is cleaning it and says, "We had a visit from the poop monster last night. My brother owes me $6,000 that I'll never see." I bought him a MacBook Pro that he just sold shortly after. But the main one is he has 3 kids with 3 women and isn't in their life at all. He refuses to work because he knows he will get his wages garnished. It's hard to say. I'd have to categorize it. I guess overall, beating her son. She got away with it too, because both the judge and social worker handling the case retired without passing it on to their replacements, directly to me. Maybe it was when we were teenagers and she got drunk and tried to take my head off with a metal baseball bat to steal my stereo. Most embarrassing was at our grandmother's funeral. She jumped in our cousin's pool with her clothes on just because she wanted to be funny and random. No drugs or alcohol involved in this, just stupidity and insensitivity. I have 2 special needs siblings. They're sweethearts, but there's still a lot to handle. When we first got my little sister back from the orphanage, she was struggling to adjust to our house and really didn't like being told what to do. One day, when my mom told her she couldn't have a snack, she straight up pissed on the floor. She's mellowed out with age and we've mended fences. But man, my sister was a frocking nightmare until she finally moved out of our parents' house. Worst thing she ever did was when I was 15 and she was 19. She found my gay porn on the family PC and immediately showed it to our parents thinking that they'd be pissed off and punish me for being gay. I'm just scanning this thread for one of my sister's replies because if she ever replies to anything it will be this. I can't give any stories because one of my sisters is such a frocking nightmare my family would identify it immediately. She's proof karma doesn't exist. My sister has really severe OCD. She isn't a nightmare herself, but living with her was really tough, especially since she didn't want to admit she had OCD. I wasn't allowed in the kitchen ever growing up. There were times she wouldn't let me even breath in her direction BC she didn't want my air getting on her. I still have never been in her bedroom even though it's a few feet away from mine. Outed me to our parents when I was 19 because I wouldn't let her blackmail me after she found out I was gay while rifling through my things. My older sibling defrauded my family of $300,000 to fund their weight loss surgery. Then got addicted to prescription drugs to cope with the pain. Developed a hoarding problem and had to get forced into rehab. One of them almost, by accident, caused my death as a baby. And when I was a toddler she slammed the backyard door so hard because I wasn't allowed outside. By her. Thing is, my thumb was between the door and frame. It's a good thing the tendon wasn't severed, otherwise I'd be thumbless on my dominant hand. Also made my life a living hell for the most part. Insulted my fiancée on numerous occasions. Might be peanuts compared to other stories, but she's nothing but trouble. One of my sisters is serving life in prison for luring her drug dealer to her house, killing him, then setting his car on fire with his body in it. Either my older sister pointing a loaded shotgun at me when she was getting ready to go deer hunting when I was a kid, or the time she threw needle-nosed pliers at my head and I dodged to the side just in time to see them impale my bedroom door an inch deep. It's pretty tame compared to a lot of the other stories, but he jumped in my head. We're in the schoolyard during recess. I was running away from him. I don't really remember why, but it was probably because he wanted to hit me. I ran over some dark ice and fell. I hit my head and became disoriented. People saw him reach me, jump in the air, bend his legs, and both his knees landed on my head while I was still lying on the ground. I could have died or become a vegetable. I blame him for all the headaches, migraines I have had since. More than 20 years later, he doesn't remember it. My parents don't even remember it. I also suffer from PTSD and insomnia because of him. My oldest brother had a bit of a wild phase. Wait, phases end. My brother is a mix of Charlie Sheen and Hugh Hefner. In high school he would take girls to the barn behind our house and just have his own mini-raves. Music, bed, coke and ecstasy. So he had these same 3 girls come over and would give them X and just bang. So at the beginning of his senior year of high school he had 2 girls pregnant at the same time. Then he ends up dating the 3rd girl. So today 20 years later this guy has 6 kids. With 6 different women. Yet he does hold a job and he does pay child support. He is 6 years older than me. 46. And of all of us siblings he is the one who is the least successful in terms of career, but most successful in, he is having fun. I let my hamster out to exercise in her ball on the 2nd floor, and my frocking brother kicked it down the stairs. Less than a month ago, she stole $3,600 from my mother to buy useless crap. She then acted as the victim and told my mum that she should have told her that she wasn't allowed to use her card without her consent. My mum placed safety features on her card. For example, she would now get a notification for each and every transaction that happens on her card. I kid you not. An hour after their conversation, my mum got notified by her bank that someone used her card to buy something worth $50. It was my sister. This time she said it was an accident. How does someone accidentally put in someone else's bank details? My sister definitely has an online shopping addiction. And that isn't even the worst thing about her. Stole money from my father while he was in the hospital days from dying. She never came to see him before he passed. Molested me. Sibling is 4 years older than me. Constantly lied about things that occurred when we were kids to make me out to be the bad guy and at fault. Twisted situations and words to make me seem like the antagonist. Got the first person they kissed whilst we were on holiday to punch me in the face. I was like sub 10 years old. Constantly made fun of me for everything they could. Decided they were allowed to tell me how I should live my life and change things. Once told me that just because my 3 immediate family members were digs to me and knew how to push my buttons, that I had an anger problem and that I'd abuse any partner I have ever had. That's hard to decide. They've done so many frocked up things and honestly, I repress a lot of the more traumatic memories. The time they tried to push me down the stairs when I was on featherweight bearing due to having major hip surgery stands out to right now. My brother let his friend molest me while he watched. One of my older brothers used to smother me till I passed out. Then slap me awake and do it all over again. It was his favorite game. Heard my sister ask my brother to have 6. Haven't spoken to either of them in eons. My little brother was a terror as a kid. One Christmas, he bit me so hard that blood started streaming from the wound. Another time, he tried to beat my face in with a piece of firewood, and he threw a wrench at my head. He also dumped piss all over me. Fortunately, my mother bent over backward to get him professional help, and he grew up to be a mere asshole instead of a violent criminal. My older brother systematically tortured me, verbally abused me, and manipulated my parents, or they didn't care, into abusing and neglecting me as well, until I turned 18 and left. I had stress-induced asthma, TMJ dysfunction, depression, anxiety, and still suffer from something called complex PTSD. He absolutely lacked empathy, making him technically a sociopath. He killed and abused animals in front of me. He abused me as much as he could get away with it. The worst part of it all is how I'm perceived as the bad one in the family because I'm the only one verbalizing it all and trying to bring it to light. Don't worry. The cycle continues with the 3 kids he treats just as badly. Pulling a gun on me because he didn't want me to come upstairs. He's a selfish, manipulative liar who raped me when I was 6. He then proceeded to check my diary to make sure I didn't tell on him. My friend died because his sister hated him for no reason. She killed herself along with him only because she wanted to be the favorite. I'll miss that guy. He was my friend since we were 6. Now I am 15. Held my head underwater. So much frickin' stuff. I don't know how many times I fell down the stairs, off the top bunk, etc. Shaming me for having friends. Constant stuff. I am disabled and my sister beat the shit out of me when I was 2 on Halloween cause I was getting more attention than her. Edit. I forgot to mention she's also pushed me down the stairs when I had broken both my legs in 2nd grade and left me there for 7 hours. She's also put weapons in my backpack for school SP I get in trouble and has stabbed me in the stomach with a knife because I wouldn't get her a bag of chips. Man, I had an abusive older brother growing up. All of my friends and even some of his friends knew how violent and short-tempered he was with me and my older sister. Older than him. We are all under 20 months apart from each other. So we went through puberty, getting braces, attending the same primary schools, all at the same time. I could honestly spend hours writing about the times my brother went overboard with the abuse. My father was sterile to the whole damn thing. My father doesn't know how to be a father. Everything from first-generation immigrant parental trauma to being bullied your entire childhood because of 9/11 had done to wider society's perception of your race affected my psyche, but none more than my brother. My stepbrother stole my college tuition my father had been saving for 10 years. He went and snorted all $20. It was never replaced and I had to drop out of school after 1 year. My brother told the whole school I was a druggie and a whore. I was 12 to 13 and had only kissed 2 boys and never done drugs. Boys his age started messaging me on Facebook thinking it was true and trying to hook up with me.